Papa told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA Finals. Let's go!
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 48 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel Cellio, here with
Adam Kasuchi, back in action.
And today we are giving you some more updates on free agency, but specifically we're going to break down some of the interesting teams that have either emerged or have made some interesting piece moves, and we're going to see how well that team lines up now. So to start off with, I want to look at the Lakers for a second, because obviously Lakers are the reigning champions and definitely top dogs. They perform extremely well, no doubt about that. And, you know, if you have a winning team, it's usually custom to run it back, keep the same formula, but they decided to make some pretty big moves. They got rid of Dwight Howard, and they got rid of JaVale McGee, and Howard ended up going to the 76ers. And instead, they did a couple different moves. They took Marc Gasol from us, for starters, probably to start, I would assume. They took Sixth Man of the Year, Montrezl Harrell, signed with the Lakers, 2-year, $19 million. I think that's a good move. They brought in Dennis Schroeder and got rid of Danny Green. They did a little bit of a move swap there. And then they also brought in Wesley Matthews for 1 year, $3.6 million. So compared to last year, those are the changes. And I think that there's something a little bit different this year, I think, is that they tried giving a little bit of a younger squad. Obviously, Mark and Wesley Matthews are pretty old, but they did bring in Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell, and they got rid of Danny Green. They got rid of Howard, they got rid of McGee, they got rid of Rondo, a lot of older players in the team, and they brought in some more young talent. Obviously, Danny Green wasn't shooting the best. We harp on that a little bit. Sorry, Danny. So Wesley Matthews coming in could be a little bit of a replacement for that. Schroeder being a replacement for Rondo. And obviously, big man Harrell, he's been fantastic along with Marc Gasol, who will be a solid piece for moving the ball for them. I don't know in the defensive end if that was their best move, but I think so far they do have some interesting pieces. So Adam, I just want you first to just comment on, what do you see so far with these moves? Do you think they were smart moves?
So when looking at the moves here, yeah, I think they were pretty smart moves. I mean, I'm seeing a trend here with the Lakers as signing guys for like Rondo, Dwight Howard last year, and bringing them in, signing them on a veterans minimum, and then now they're doing the same thing, signing cheap contracts with guys like Wesley Matthews. Harrell took a bit of a pay cut, right? So Marc Gasol. So people are accepting obviously less of a big amount when coming to the Lakers, I guess, because of their chances to win a ring, really wanting to win, right? And I think that's what the Lakers are really doing. They're really swapping guys out who wanted more money this offseason, like Dwight, Rondo. I'm assuming since they won a chip, they may see themselves as more valuable in the trade market. So they probably wanted more money, and Rob Pelinka probably said we can probably find as good as options for a cheaper amount, right? So that's what they probably did with the money, to kind of replace them, get the same quality of player, but keep their budget intact. I also do think, Abe, that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, will have a much bigger role in this year's playoff run, which I do think the Lakers will get there obviously again. He did play well in the playoffs last year, and I think he was a huge piece. And I think the Lakers and their staff have realized how big of a piece he is to the team, and how much he provides, shooting the big shots. I mean, he shot a lot of clutch shots in the playoffs last season. And I thought he was really good driving to the rim. Obviously, his shooting is great, and I think he will be one of the key guys to contribute. And I also wanted to say I do see Talen Horton-Tucker, a young Laker. I think that will crack the rotation this season, as well as Markieff Morris will play a significant amount of minutes. So having all these guys in the lineup, I think the Lakers are probably one of the most well-rounded teams in the NBA.
I agree with you there on KCP. I think he did prove a little bit of his worth. With all three of these guys, though, I'm not sure about the minute part of that because of just how many guys they have, how many good pieces, and guys like Schroeder and Harrell coming in. I think that's going to take away some of the minutes, but who knows. So to move on, we have now the Atlanta Hawks, another team I think we should talk about. They did a couple of I would say, pretty big moves to help give Trae Young the supporting cast that we all thought he needed in order to make this roster a serious contender for the playoffs and who knows, maybe even a championship. They did make a lot of moves. One of the big ones was Danilo Gallinari, 3-year contract, $61.5 million. We know that Danilo is obviously a top player for OKC last year. He consistently brings in like a great scoring element, especially in the playoffs. He was really good. You could consistently rely on him to bring you somewhere around 20 points a night. OKC definitely relied on him, but to bring someone like that, a scorer, along with Bogdanovic around Trae Young is going to give him a lot of help. Bogdan, another good piece who's been, I would say, getting better as the years went on and can definitely explode for some huge scoring nights himself. Two big pieces around Trae Young. And then you got Rondo coming in with veteran championship experience, someone that wants to win and has high IQ. And we saw what he did with the Lakers last season. So now to have him on the Hawks, it looks like they're seriously pushing for a big move here. And not to mention, they got John Collins on the come up and Clint Capella being a huge dominant big man I could see stepping up this year. And now they've also picked up Okongwu in this draft, who we talked a little bit about thinking that he would have been in that top 5 position. So I think that this team has a lot of interesting pieces, and I wouldn't be surprised if this team could make the top 4 or 5 in the East.
Yeah, when looking at this Hawks team, I think they're really guard and big man heavy. When looking at the team breakdown, they are missing the wings. Their small forward position is very weak. I do think they have great backups and starters for their point guard, shooting guard, power forward, centers positions, but their small forward, where most of the best players in the NBA are, for the Atlanta Hawks is very weak. So I'm wondering if they're gonna trade any of these point guard, their guards or big men that they have a lot of depth in. Trade some of that for maybe a decent defending, elite defending small forward that I think that will fit well into this team. Because when looking at the teams and their stars, Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella, Danilo Gallinari, there's not a lot of defense in there. Maybe Clint Capella can be the one, but out of those 4 and even the bench players, they do lack defense. So I want to see maybe if the Hawks GM can put together a trade bringing in a top defensive talent that will mix with these offensive guys that will kind of neutralize the team, and I hope it turns out well for the Hawks.
Yeah, definitely in the guard position. I see what you're saying. I think Rondo is a solid defender for that area, and then the bigs is going to have to be Capella and John Collins stepping up big. You know, Collins averaged 1.6 blocks last season and about 10 rebounds. And now to have Capella supporting on the inside, I think that this team has a lot of unique pieces. And the Hawks, I think, seriously did a big push this offseason to try getting a good, solid supporting cast around Trae and John to really make this team a contender. And I'm very excited to watch them. I think they're going to be a big force coming out of the East that definitely wasn't there before, because we know how they performed this season, 27th overall in the league. So I'm very excited to watch them. Yeah,
they have some veterans in there as well, and they just kept on stacking on the pieces of skill. And let's see what all these skill talents can bring in the East.
So now we have the Charlotte Hornets. The biggest move I think that they brought in, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about their draft guys that they drafted, because that's big changes for them. But they did sign Hayward, 4-year, $120 million, and they're working on making that a sign and trade deal with the Celtics. Other big things, I guess, to mention here is that they did take LaMelo Ball in the draft with the 3rd overall pick. And a solid big man they took was Jalen McDaniels. And to add that with their team of obviously Malik Monk being a solid player for them, Devontae Graham, Scary Terry Rozier, even Miles Bridges, they do have a couple of interesting pieces. I guess we're going to have to see what happens. LaMelo Ball, we're going to see if this guy's going to show up to the player that everyone expects him to be. I'm kind of expecting like maybe a Atlanta Hawks of like Trae Young's rookie year. So like they don't perform that well as a team, but LaMelo might step up. But he does have a couple of pieces around him. Adam, what do you think about this roster right now? And do you think Gordon Hayward made a good decision of joining Charlotte?
Okay, so to answer the Gordon Hayward question first, I think he did. I think he's going to get a lot more touches on this team. I think it's gonna bring him back to his old days from the Utah Jazz, like I said previously. And I think this is a great fit for Gordon Hayward, and he's gonna have to mentor a lot of younger guys, and I think he'll have success doing that. When looking at the roster, I think Charlotte drafting LaMelo Ball, I think they really wanted to do that to put their name back on the map, for people to talk about them. I don't know if they're going to get a lot of results this season, coming in wins, because looking at the roster, like the Hawks, they have the same type of guards, as in a lot of offense in their guard play. Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, and LaMelo Ball, all being offense-heavy guards. The defense is going to be their struggle as well in their guard play. And then when you look at their big men, as well, they don't have very skilled big men. Obviously, Vernon Carey coming from Duke, and he's coming into the NBA, so it's his first year, so I don't know what to expect from him. Cody Zeller has been a decent guy for Charlotte. I mean, he has been their starting center, but they didn't really have any other choice. And they do have some interesting wing players with Jalen McDaniels, Gordon Hayward, and Bridges. So they do have, like you said, Gabe, a couple interesting pieces. I don't see them making the playoffs because their lack of defense, as well as having PJ Washington as one of their bigs, he is the one bright spot in terms of bigs that will work for Charlotte, I think, this season. But other than that, the Charlotte roster, I don't think it's that deep, to be honest, and I think they just gotta get their name back on the map and try signing a couple more free agents next year as well, or trade away either Terry Rozier or Devontae Graham.
Yeah, I think that those players have been pretty solid for them, especially last season. Graham had a breakout year. Should have definitely had a better acknowledgement for most improved player. That's disappointing that he didn't. But those guys, they do have a lot of, they're guard heavy right now with good guards, especially in the offensive end, like you said. Defense could be the problem. Wanted to just throw out something pretty funny. Vernon Carey, one of the younger guys in the draft, 19 years old, born February 25th, 2001, and he's 6'10", 270. That's a big boy. Yeah. I want to see that guy play.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a very physical player down low, and I think he'll use it to his advantage in the league. His body is already NBA prepared, so I think he'll have success right off the bat. So I think that can be a great pick for Charlotte in terms of the draft.
So now another team I want to talk about, the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that they did do a couple of moves here. We talked before that we didn't really like the Jrue Holiday move. We think that he is a very solid player, very underrated player, and it is sad that they let him walk, and especially they took Ben Bledsoe and Hill and ended up trading Hill away. So some of the pieces that they have now, they got Bledsoe coming in. They drafted a couple of young guys, Kira Lewis being one of them. Steven Adams coming in off of that trade for the Jrue Holiday, that switch around. Steven Adams coming in, I think that's going to be huge for them. Having a solid big man who can secure rebounds for them, played large and aggressive near the basket, help give space to shooters like JJ Redick, who we know loves to wrap around to that right side, getting him the space he needs, working with Lonzo on the pick and roll and all the alley-oops that they toss up. I think that he's a good pickup for them and not too expensive either. They did sign him an extension as well to keep him. And some other pieces they got was Hernan Gomez they picked up, and Brandon Ingram. He signed a 5-year, $158 million max extension with them. So I think that is definitely a key piece of conversation here. So Adam, I'm going to pose you two questions. One, maybe I'll start with Steven Adams. Do you think the Steven Adams trade was a good one? And what are your just thoughts on that? I know you probably think it's good, but what are your thoughts on it? And two, Brandon Ingram, the extension, is that chunk of change, is it going to pay off for them? Because right now he did secure the bag.
Okay, so when talking about the Steven Adams deal, for sure, I think this is a great trade for the Pelicans. A great player, I think, is going to be very consistent this season with all the young players around him. Like you said, a great screener, good inside scorer, defends the rim well, so I think he's going to be the consistent for the team this season. When looking at the Brandon Ingram deal, I think it's a conversation in itself. I think when giving a young player a max contract after one good season, didn't perform too well on the Lakers and then got traded to the Pelicans and then had a great season. Giving a young player like that so much money, it's kind of like the Pascal situation with the Raptors. After just 1 year, giving them so much money. For me as a GM, I would like to see the younger player play much more consistent and have multiple years before getting that max. I know the chance is that you may let them walk in free agency if you don't sign them, but I do think that for me, you need to be consistent in order to get that max, and at least need 2+ years of great seasons to at least earn that max.
The question of the max is definitely a big one. You want your players to be consistent, to be experienced, reliable too. But it's not uncommon that these moves have been made. We saw De'Aaron Fox also signed an extension, $163 million, 5 years. Bam Adebayo, same thing, 5-year, $163. Jason Tatum, 5 years, $195. So there is, to put it into maybe a category, the young stars of the league, the next generation of guys. They have been doing big, massive contract re-signs. Even Donovan Mitchell got a big one as well. So clearly they are looking towards keeping these pieces who they think they can build a franchise around. And Ingram, we're not going to knock him. He has been, talked about by many people, very praised for his game. Kevin Durant loves him, always compares him to himself. He did win most improved player of the year because his numbers have been increasing every season. Especially the past 3 years, he has put up solid numbers. And this year, New Orleans kind of took over the team and became the star player. So definitely got to give him the shout out he deserves. And it's always a matter of, are these players going to be worth their money? Now it's the time to prove it. The thing here now is consistency and continuously improving his game. He does that and he tries to get his team some form of success, whether that be making the playoffs or doing well in the playoffs. I think that's the next step for them, is to show where they're going to go. Adam, where do you see this team ending up this season?
I do see the Pelicans ending up in maybe a 7th or 8th seed. I do think they do have enough pieces to make a run here. I do think, though, there are a lot of question marks. Obviously, with Zion, can he stay healthy? The games he did play, he played absolutely amazing, and his jumper was actually better than we all thought it would be. And if he can stay healthy, I think this team does have success. Another one is the improvement of Lonzo Ball. Can he keep steadily improving in the NBA and get closer to that high potential that everyone expected him to be? So I think he's almost there. I think he just needs to keep on shooting those threes and play that great defense that he has. And I think his IQ for the game is outstanding. So Lonzo Ball, I think, will be good this season as well. And then Eric Bledsoe will have to have a great season for sure, leading the team at point guard. For this team, I think, to do well.
Yeah, shout out to the correspondent, as we call him, Enzo Minicucci, for he's been continuously praising Lonzo Ball, and we obviously you want to see players do good in the league, and Lonzo Ball sadly hasn't been performing as to what we were told he would be, this star player, and the key thing is the jumper there. His IQ is obviously great, his defense is great. All we need now is that jumper to fit in. Hopefully this off season actually, he's been working on it, and next season he brings it into fruition. People have thought that he might be the breakout player this year. I know someone predicted that. I can't remember who, but someone did. So let's see what happens with him, and hopefully he picks up his game, because this team is going to need it. And like you said, I think Bledsoe, another piece that he has to perform well. He's kind of underperformed with his shot making ability, especially from three. If those two guys step up, this team has a shot at making the playoffs, I think. Okay, so next we have the Los Angeles Clippers. Last year, they underperformed, to say the least. Kawhi left us, sadly, and thought that they were going to do much better at the Clippers, and it turns out that he got out in the exact same position as us. And the Clippers are a little bit in disarray, and they needed to do some moves. They let Harrell walk, and Harrell made it look like they didn't show much of an effort to wanting to keep him back. He was kind of vocal about that. And Harrell was Sixth Man of the Year and played phenomenal with them. Maybe it was a team chemistry issue, because we know that they pointed a lot of fingers at team chemistry for why they didn't make it farther in the playoffs. So maybe that was the issue, but they did let someone like him go, which was interesting. But they did do a couple of moves. They re-signed Marcus Morris. They re-signed Patrick Patterson. And, most importantly, they took Serge Ibaka from us. So Now we got to look at where do you think this team is going to go? Do you think, Adam, that they are going to perform better than they did last year? Maybe with this extra season, there's some more chemistry, and now with Serge Ibaka filling in the gaps, filling out that center position, do you think they're going to be a more solid team and give the Lakers a run for their money?
Yep, I think that was the issue. I think Serge Ibaka will be the key missing piece to this team that they added. Zubac and Ibaka, I think, will be a great pairing for sure in the Clippers front court. And I think that Leonard and George, I think now knowing they have height at the center position and they don't have to sit too much on their defenders. I do think they will play much better defensively, and the rebounds will be much more taken care of with a bigger man at center. And I also think Ibaka is a much better player than Montrezl Harrell, just in terms of overall playing. I think his defense is better. His offensive game is much more consistent. And I do think that Serge will fit into this team nicely. And then already previously having a relationship with Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors, so they will probably have some chemistry there. There's the one thing I want to mention with the Clippers is I don't know what they're doing with their guards here. I mean, Lou Williams, is still on the table. I don't know if he is staying or if he is leaving here. They did pick up Luke Kennard in replacement for Landry Shamet, so that's a pretty interesting move. And then obviously Patrick Beverley is the loyal man to the Clippers, and I think he will play a big part if they wanna win or even contend this season.
I think, like you said, Serge Ibaka is filling up the role nicely, finishing out that defensive lineup. If they're going Bev at the 1, PG and Kawhi, and Serge Ibaka at the center, and the power forward, I guess, Marcus Morris. I think they're filling out now the paint presence, shot blocking ability that they could use. And I think that starting lineup is definitely a very solid one. And not to mention Lou Williams, with 2-time Sixth Man of the Year, loves playing in that position, practically a starter, plays all the minutes, but keeps getting on those cheap Sixth Man of the Year awards. But that lineup is solid. After those 6 now, I'm not sure on how much the depth, in terms of depth, how much they have, but I think that the defense alone and the spark from those 6 guys are going to cause a lot of trouble for the Lakers. But do you have some insight on the Lakers versus Clippers matchup for this season?
This season, I think they'll be much more prepared. I think I don't know who Paul George is going to be guarding. Obviously, with Kawhi on LeBron, George, I don't think he cannot take Davis on the inside. So I still think they will have trouble there. But I think they will just put Serge on him. I wonder how good Serge can do. Obviously, being an elite defender like Serge is, I think he will do well. And I think the Clippers, even though the Lakers are so strong this year, I think they will put up a better fight. I don't know if they can win games against the Lakers, but they will, I think, put up a better fight this year because of the center position fill with Serge Ibaka.
I want to draw attention to, go back to kind of something you said about the Lou Williams situation. Like a couple days ago, it came out that it was rumored that they were looking to trade Lou and to get rid of their Sixth Man of the Year, and then their previous Sixth Man of the Year, in Lou Williams, is very questionable, especially for how well that he's performed season in and season out, being that consistent player coming off the bench. And apparently people are thinking it's trying to create a new environment, a fresh start after that, blowing the 3-1 lead. But I think with a team that talented, I think maybe just give it some time and try letting the chemistry build. I didn't think you needed to blow it up and, get rid of 2 of your top bench players. So I guess we gotta see what happens. And Luke Kennard, I think we just gotta see how this roster fills out. And as it stands, I think, like you said, it's gonna be a lot closer. And the Lakers are probably gonna be more prepared for that matchup. And the Lakers' size, in terms of just trying to control the beast that is Anthony Davis, will be a hard enough problem on its own.
Yeah, I think it was just a mix of bad coaching and just the players not performing to their full ability. Obviously, Pandemic P, and then obviously the legend in Doc Rivers. But I think he didn't use the players he had in an efficient way. I think he should have played Zubac more. I thought he performed well. He did get into foul trouble a couple games, but he did perform well, and he was a better rebounder than Harrell was on the floor. And that was obviously just because the inches in height, obviously 4 extra inches, right? So I don't know. I think it was just a mix of that, players not performing, and the coaches just not using the players in their proper way and not playing the right guys at the right time. So the next team we'll be talking about here is the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously, playing well in the first round, I guess, against the Lakers, if you want to say well. But
Game 1.
They're coming up short every year, and I keep on seeing the same issues here. First of all, they don't have. Well, now they did pick up Robert Covington in that small forward position, but I was going to say they don't have a true small forward. Carmelo Anthony, I think he overperformed. I think he actually played very well last season. I think they're expecting way too much out of him, to be honest. Enes Kanter and I think Jusuf Nurkic is a great pairing at the center position. Jusuf Nurkic, I think, is one of the most underrated centers in the league because of his IQ, his scoring ability, and his defense. I think he's a great center, and I think this is a great pairing for Portland. And then at the guards, I think Dame and CJ, I think they got to keep playing and keep. I think they have to get lucky with their matchups. I mean, the teams they've been matched up against in the playoffs have been really tough for them. I mean, but they haven't performed in the playoffs. I mean, Damian Lillard has had some good series in round 1, maybe round 2, but other than that, he falls up short every time. But I do respect him for staying on the Blazers for such a long time, trying to build a culture and trying to understand that he has to win in one place instead of jumping ships to other teams. So I really respect that loyalty from Lillard.
Yeah, like you said, respect those guys for what they've done. Clearly, the Portland Trailblazers organization also believes in them. They didn't do anything switching the guards up, didn't really bring in any guards. They just re-signed Rodney Hood. And like you said, they filled out their big man a little bit. They brought back Carmelo. They signed Harry Giles, if that's how you pronounce it. Yeah. And Enes Kanter, bringing him in as well. Whether these are going to be sufficient to get them out of the bottom 2 seeds or even out of the playoffs, who knows? They kind of just have like a roadblock of this team is all around, a decent, solid team, especially on paper, and their guards do have huge nights. Nurkic plays really well, but for some reason they just can't, get over the hump of becoming a solid contender or a serious team to watch out for. They were plagued with a little bit of injuries, at the end of the playoffs, but I'm not too certain what this team needs in order to make the next step. But on paper, it doesn't seem like they made any drastic moves in that direction. It just appears that they are going to remain that same type of 7th, 6th seed, in my opinion. Maybe 8th, who knows? But I think 7th, 6th for now.
Yeah, I'm thinking around 6 to 8 seed for sure for the Portland Trailblazers, and I do agree with you, Gabe. They didn't make too many drastic changes this off season, but I do think the Robert Covington is a very positive move here for the Portland Trailblazers in terms of defense, and trying to move their organization in that way, trying to get them to be more of a defensive club. And I think the Blazers will have a decent season. I don't think they'll be making it out of the first round once again this season. I think they will make the playoffs, but I think they do still come up short with this roster. I just don't think they have the right game style. And I think with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum shooting all those threes, I think it's great to see. But I think it's not a recipe of winning with the isolation basketball, like I've said with James Harden and so on.
Yeah. Lastly, I just want to throw in quickly just some of the moves that have happened in terms of the Pistons and the Nuggets. The Nuggets have lost their center Mason Plumlee and also Jeremy Grant. Both went to the Pistons. 3-year, $60 million contract for Jeremy Grant and 3-year, $25 million contract for Mason Plumlee. And then, not to mention, Jahlil Okafor also ended up signing with the Pistons 2 years. I don't think none of these moves are drastic in terms of the Pistons, in terms of what they're going to be able to accomplish. But I just wanted to point out the fact that the Nuggets are losing 2 solid pieces for them. Plumlee did perform quite well. When Jokic isn't on the floor, he does step up and play solid minutes. Grant was a spark for them that you called out specifically, Adam, in the playoffs.
Yep.
To watch out for. And the Nuggets losing both of those guys, I'm not too sure what's going on there in that franchise, considering that they were able to do what most people thought was impossible for a couple of rounds of the playoffs and getting their way to the Western Conference Finals, and then doing these moves, and in turn picking up JaMychal Green, 2-year, $15 million, and Facundo Campazzo for the Denver Nuggets, 2 years. So not too certain what's going on in that franchise.
Yeah, Gabe, you also see a trend when looking at it from the Raptors standpoint. The Milwaukee Bucks have improved heavily. The Lakers have improved heavily. And then the Raptors kind of took, I think, a down step this year, obviously getting, losing big pieces like Serge Ibaka. Do you think that they can still compete with these teams? The Toronto Raptors, can they compete with the Bucks, the Lakers, the Clippers in a 7-game series?
I don't want to be pessimistic or negative, but at the same time, at some point you got to be a realist. I think that this free agency, we slipped up a little bit. I think we fell behind, didn't make the big moves. We took some of the lesser, I'm not talking bad about the guys we did pick up, because I want to see how they do before we make a judgment call on them. But we definitely missed some bigger opportunities in free agency. We let some of our big players walk. And other teams stepped up, made big trades, or traded on draft night, or something like that. They made moves, and I think the Raptors, they kind of slept a little bit this offseason, and this season we will see, how that turns out. Did we fall behind? I'm not too confident in our abilities to make the top 4 in the East, so I wouldn't be surprised if we fell short of that this year. But we're gonna have to roll with it and see how we play out, and see if maybe we make any moves come deadline day.
Yeah, because there's a lot of teams that are obviously improving in the East, which really does scare me. And obviously I think we did take a down step, but that doesn't mean we can't perform to the same ability. Nick Nurse did the same thing with Kawhi leaving, having a Kawhi-less team and bringing them to where they did last year. Even though second round it was pretty disappointing. But he did bring them to where they were, even and finish in second place during the regular season. So that is a positive, and I totally believe in Nick Nurse's ability to guide us and have another winning and positive good season.
Yeah, with our franchise, anything's possible, and we find a way to bring back people's careers and turn them into something, or get players to work harder than they regularly would in order to reach a goal that we have set in place. And if that season it's to make top 4 in the East, then let's set out and do that. Okay, I think that is pretty much it. Thank you all for listening. We hope you all enjoyed. Please check us out on Instagram at Rapzville for NBA news, Raptors content, and more. You can check us out on YouTube for visuals of this podcast, or find the audio only on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Please like and subscribe. Leave comments down below. And yeah, that is us signing out. Peace.